I need a motion to approve the minutes of the following meeting of August 30th, 22. Matt? Kristen? All those in favor? Jason, Dr. Sarah.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, as shared during our last Board of Education meeting, we, along with other school districts, are working diligently to cover and address our transportation needs. We are helping each other out from one district to another with regards to our transportation routes. We are currently on a day-by-day scheduling system with regards to athletics. Our athletic department, our AD and Mr. Hanley are working with other districts to shift game times so that we can be able to coordinate for transportation for our students. In tonight's Board of Education agenda, right, I have included an emergency resolution for transportation. What this means is it allows us to enter into contracts with transportation companies on a temporary basis so that we can cover the transportation needs that we currently are unable to cover with regard, with our current department. In the last few days, Ms. Gillis and I have met with or have spoken with various transportation companies, sharing with them the routes, right, that we currently need coverage for. Thankfully, a number of our private school transportation routes, right, that we didn't have coverage for, and a few special needs routes as well, in special kind of circumstances, we now will have coverage for starting, I think, Thursday morning, right, with this other company. So again, it really is a matter of, however they can help us, right? We're trying to ensure that we can, cover the routes that we're unable to, in-house. And again, this is, everyone else is on the same boat, right? Our neighboring districts, those that have their own transportation department, as well as those that completely contract out as well. Would like to share with everyone, again, rest assured that all transportation safety matters that you have brought to our attention are taken seriously and are being addressed by our administration team. We fully know and recognize how frustrating it has been, and we thank you for your patience and your understanding. We also thank our transportation department for addressing all of the concerns to the best of their ability and continuing to address each one of those one at a time as they are brought to their attention. Also, a huge thank you to our Buildings and Grounds Department and ITS Department for getting us ready for opening day. In a few weeks, the team worked through countless tasks, addressed many facilities needs, and worked with outside groups to coordinate the rebuilding, restoration, and reconnection of countless IT systems in the district. Today's board presentations include Mr. Van Water from McHugh, who will provide an overview of our Eagle Hall Junior High School seats, the options for our Board of Education to select from. We also have Carolisa Grunner, who will be providing an overview of the South Bay parking lot proposal, right? This is following up from our last Board of Education meeting. And Mr. Payne, who will be providing an update on our DSIP plan. That's all I have for this section, Ms. Campus-Ann.
Statements of the West Babylon Teachers Association. Welcome back.
Thank you. Good evening. One thing I want to say to everyone, West Babylon teachers are doing a fundraiser to start an emergency fund for our teachers in the community and for community members. We've seen these different crises and strategies coming up, and we want to be proactive and have something, something solve everything solve, but have something to give in time of need. We're starting off with a sweatshirt fundraiser. These are the sweatshirts right here. They have the West Babylon teachers logo on the front. All right, on the back we have this rendered from James Holmes' artwork on the football field with the eagle. Back. They're $45. Plus charges like double X hotel $48. We take check, we take Venmo, and
What's the Venmo site?
if you look up, you just type in WGTA. It's a WGTA 404. That's the name of the fundraiser. It's emergency fund only. And you can look at West Babylon people.
Send it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. No other statements? Statements of residents on agenda items only? Thank you. Dr. Farrelly.
Okay, so at this time, I am going to start off with Mr. Larry Van Water, Director of Educational Sales for McHugh Institutional Furnishings. We have some sample seats here. Why don't you come up to, you can have the stand, but definitely the mic, right? Because we also stream our meetings so that people from home can watch us. And take it away. Walk us through here, our options.
Okay, well, thank you very much for inviting me. I work for a company called McHugh. We have offices in Garden City and Hauppauge. And we're a dealer that supplies furniture, equipment to schools, bleachers, grandstands, lockers, science casework, classroom furniture, storage items, blackboards, what have you. The thing we're talking about tonight, the auditorium seating, we're the local dealer for Irwin Seating. Irwin Seating is an American company based in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It is the largest seller of public seating in the world. Everything's made in America. It's local artisans. They're very conscious of the environment. They're very conscious of the country that we live in. They try to provide jobs for the local folks. They've been a reputable family company for over 100 years. And if you ask me where you might find Irwin seats, beside many schools on Long Island where we've installed them, and are currently doing so as we speak, we're talking about Madison Square Garden, we're talking about Citi Field, Yankee Stadium, MetLife Stadium, Nassau Coliseum, the new Islander Stadium at Belmont, Jones Beach Marine Theater, Carnegie Hall, 90% of Broadway theaters. It's not a small company. St. Joseph's College, Stony Brook University, Hofstra, C.W. Post, the Patchogue Theater, Port Jeff Theater, the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., U.S. Congress. So we're around. Obviously, McHugh doesn't handle all of those large projects. Everything that's under 2,000 seats, we would handle directly. Anything over that goes to the mothership. We help out, but they're the deal. Irwin provides a complete scientific community that studies these chairs ergonomically. We test everything. We've got 300,000 rubs on furniture, on new fabric, for example. They test the rising of the seat, which I'll show you in a second. And there's no seat sitting in a warehouse anyplace that you could pick and say, okay, I'll take that one. Every job is a custom job. So there are thousands of combinations of seats, of chairs, because the chair is made up of the back, the seat, the aisle standard, the standard that holds them together, the armrest, and these two, for example, these samples are the two most commonly found in schools. These aren't the ones you'll find in Broadway theaters. The higher one, the one with the higher back is called the Marquis. The one with the lower back is called the Millennium. Everything else could be the same about the chairs, but the backs are what denote the chair, and they give it the style. And these particular chairs were made for other school districts. When a district asked us for a sample, we asked them, which chair would you like to see? They said the Marquis, they said the Millennium. We picked the colors. Then they say, no, we don't want those colors. Give us these colors. So these are what they picked. These chairs now exist. They became sales in other schools. So if you were going to have this chair, you'd be deciding what fabric you want. Deciding what color you want the plastic. You'd be deciding what shape you want your arm. You'd be deciding maybe you want an island that is wood, that's the laminate, or perhaps metal. All of those chairs, we will make a fabric for you. We'll take a look at beautiful.
Back to the garden. So what I want to leave you with tonight, I took a look at some of the condition. We have samples of the fabric, samples of the laminate, samples of the plastic, samples of the wood. We take the wood species, the colors, we have you make the sample. In terms of timing, we're working with the architectural firm BBS in this case. We've done many jobs with architects too. And we work hand in hand. Carolise will be doing drawings for the auditorium. And Jimmy Chief will decide what that auditorium will look like in terms of numbers of chairs. They'll help with doing the seating goes. You should work with Irwin back and forth with the drawings. We'll come to the field measurements. And then when the drawings are finalized, you take a look at them and say, well, we don't like this three sections, we're gonna have two sections, you know, you make the changes, you bring back to us, anytime you have to come back to us until you get what you want. As this process proceeds, we say you're gonna go with one of our chairs, and put you on it, and you sample, and we get the tires, and we're ready to go. Once we have everything done with BBS, and we sent our purchase order before this meeting, it's only 8 to 12 weeks from manufacturing the chairs. And we have plenty of time now. You know, we got started. We did 13, maybe 34 part of the summer. And have to remember that because so we obviously we want to done in summertime. We have the only certified road by Irwin in the country. And there's some kind of Rhode Island. All of those places I mentioned, they've done that work. So we'll be getting a professional job in the situation. Your auditorium, I think, is somewhere about 700 seats. That would take probably 3 or 4 days to install. You do things in the auditorium, ceiling, and floor. Base, whatever you do, each stage, what have you, and we also take them out. Part of the package that's coming to take them out. That's not me. Take them out yourself. I see you have to do it. You take them out. We don't do it before. For your situation. The layout. You can go right in boxes. Chairs will come on. Boxes of backs, boxes of seats. Boxes of violet, boxes of armrests. Our guys open those boxes and they put them together. And then drawing them before, chalk it out. And drill the holes. Once those holes are chalked out, once those holes are drilled, they come in and set those standards down. And we did the Woodchuck's Theater. Upstairs was so impressive that they set up a camera. They got take a look at it. Before and after. So you see us coming in, chairs are sitting there, and wipe them out in slow motion, and then we install them things in file.
Are the arms interchangeable with the chairs? Like we like the high back, but we hate the arms and stuff.
So this, everything's interchangeable.
What color is this?
I have no clue about it. I don't know. What did I say about this chair? Why this is a popular chair? So, you know, it's only Irwin seating does this. They only do it in this model. Why I don't know. This is a 5-ply, 7-inch compound Irwin plywood. So the plywood is the base, and they carve the plastic. So when you sit in this chair, ergonomically correct, so comfortable. Every place we bring it, whether it's a school board show in the city or in certain sort of convening, what have you, you can sit in the chair. This chair is Millennium, comfortable, was made by Irwin. Second most popular chair, picked by many people. I don't put a compound permanent. But what they do is they have what they call lumbar support. So somebody says, "We really like this. This one's so much more comfortable." Remember, it's lumbar support. Let's go for money. You put in the back when we manufacture it.
I think any chair that anybody has, we sit in it for an hour or so, or 15 minutes, half an hour. Okay. When you sit in it for a show, for 2 hours, 3 hours, depending on, you see the difference. Everything's in shape. You pick the armrest, pick the shape of the armrest, the species of the wood, the laminate, the rest of it. Now, some people go with monochromatic colors. We have schools that, let's say they like blue. Brand blue, fabric blue, you pick up a laminate blue island, they have plastic blue armrest, the whole thing is blue. That's what they're like. Some people, whatever, makes it matter.
What about the warranties?
Shares, that's one reason I like working for BT. First of all, we do get oil products. Private category, $100, another family owned business, and it's 60 years old. 6 years of business. Warranty on these checks is 5 years, basic warranty is 5 years.
What's warranty? Structure,
Structures warranty,
cushion
cushion warranty.
against stains.
You know, these are treated, when you manufacture these, they're very stain resistant. Yeah. I've never had a problem. I can tell this, these just from my point out. And, that's what we can virtually pull back, right? You know, we read it. We can't remedy it as a queue, we go through. So there's always remedy the situation. They don't have any jobs out there. Like, take our local forces, someone to do this, and everybody is satisfied. And you think of one school without a fabric that you got to pull it. They pulled something that's full, you know, like, you went out there, and it was full, it was all high school, too far down the road. And, so we pulled up, on seating. Region manager from Grand Rapids. Looked at it and said, replace all. Replace all of the seats. Because it had a flaw in the fabric.
So even though the others didn't have holes in them, they replaced them.
Most of them had holes. Like you said, so. The only other time I had anything, but many schools used to refurbish chairs. Having to refurbish them became as expensive as the new chairs. So that fell by the wayside. We had one instance where we tried to talk to how to refurbish them. They wanted to refurbish it. I would have did it, none of the bags. So like in the motor body shop. You can take out the larger ones. Those aren't happy. So pretty good today. All right, and let's go about it. And well, folks in Grand Rapids, they flew in and they said, that's not up to our standards. They gave them all wooden chairs. That's what that is. Unfortunately, there was no wooden chairs in the parking standards. Not ready to buy everything else. That's not as good as these chairs.
Is there a big difference in price? Of the two chairs?
In the neighborhood of 10%. Pricing, you know what prices like, so I'm sorry to say that prices go up. I mean, the option you early seating traditionally increases prices by 3% a year. That was kind of rule they had. It's COVID, it's supply chain problems, it's the world, the way the world is. We've got a couple of recent 6% increases, which is not making us happy.
So just for any audience members or maybe we're not part of previous meetings, these chairs, right, are covered under our initial capital project, right? So when we first went out with the capital project, we identified some B list items, right? Some items that if we had some funding left over from the kind of A list, right? That we would take a look at, and Eagle Hall seats were part of that B list item. So the cost for this, right? And then obviously we received some approximate, cost and had previously shared that with the board. And that was when, again, the decision was made for us to do the junior high school seats. But I just want if you in the event that you weren't aware, right, of the capital project, this particular this particular project is covered under the capital project and not part of the general fund, budget or next year's budget money. Okay?
Just to be more specific, answer your question about warrant. It's 5 years on the structural components, 5 years on the operating mechanisms, which is really what. 5 years on the plastic, the wood, and the paint components, and 1 year on upholstery fabric. And 1 year on electric components. Make sure it's not electric. This one, you can see the wire. That highlight. Right. So, another question, but that is. So how long does the repair take? So the chair broke in and they're, the school contact you, how long is that process? Thanks for driving you from Brian said. Oh, really? We'll come the week before. From that. We can't fix it tomorrow.
So I guess maybe we start off with style, right, in terms of, and description of the overall getting factory, what is the thoughts? And I do love that you would then create kind of the model of whatever we select, and then the board would take a look at it, kind of give it a final, because it's very different, obviously, selecting a fabric in terms of the small swatches versus when you see it all together. So we do appreciate that that is part of your process, right, in terms of creating the mock one, right, that we develop, and then so we can take a look at it before all 700 are created.
I would get back on that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Me too. I have to go to the line and look at the part. Yeah, the back is nice and high and it's comfortable. I feel that a little bit, I can see for people and I got to get listen to you is for you. Oh no, they're saying, I feel like I don't get
That question does come up, and usually it's handled most by the fact that it's slow. The other thing is, I don't know if you know this, but when you walk into any auditorium, the seats aren't the same size.
You know, we did the back center.
I didn't know that much. So, look at the movie theater and something sitting in the place, that's the maintenance. Now I don't know. You can tell you create sightlines. Because you want all the rows to end evenly. They start evenly, they end evenly. If you could justify the chairs, you make a difference.
So they stagger them so that you can see.
And I still feel like hold it up under that.
You just don't answer that right. When that question comes up, sometimes there's some people are afraid to put this in elementary school. But many schools, many put it in junior high school. This is one that some people feel like straighten better or whatever else, whatever it's never that's hey. Never had so many I think my first and my shares are still in school, put them in.
Appreciate with the wood norms. I don't like that much.
That's why I think,
So style wise,
But
10%. So, Carly, so we did when we did kind of the approximate plus, then we shared in terms of the deal, what we price it off.
so you have that.
So you have the upper down.
As a student mark. No like.
I mean, you tell me if you want me to just.
Okay. Very. I honestly, I think that they can carry this, they can be comparable from this manufacturer. Is there a manufacturer out there that has seats that are much cheaper?
I can ask the question. There are companies that come and go. and everybody's making them either in China or Mexico. So right now, these are the only chairs being made in the United States. There was another company called American Seating, used to be a very good chair. Irwin bought them out about 10 years ago.
And if we look to somewhere that, or China, we're never getting it. Well, could we all like to, and you can see that, why, we could have a field trip together, we get a list of where the market is, and then install. Have broken markings to install. Companies, yeah, different, like, you know. I'm sure, to be honest with you, they're all gonna have around about the same, like. Right, yeah, right. And that's. No, it's better than they are. No, not. You know, even with inflation. There's nothing which is very disciplined. What are the proceeds?
I can't go there. I can't go there. The reason you can't go there is because every component you pick has a different price point. You know, wood is one thing, laminate is something else, one size arm, and
I think what we should.
I know it's-
A whole, like, if I'm just gonna throw a number at, that seat is 500 pounds. That seat is 400 pounds. Is there going to be a big difference if we looked at other manufacturers? No, manufacturers, other installers. Installers? This is installer, you're back on installer. Yes. And then the whole thing is then covered.
Once,
It would be a package deal no matter who we went to. If we went to. Yeah, but I don't know that they're gonna be that different in the cost. And. I can't think of big companies, up to the T. And they're not around anymore. Or. Well, who did what, seats, the tax center seats, that was actually, the owner of that company, who West Babylon. But that's what I'm saying, where is it all like? They're not around anymore.
no, they're talking about telecom.
Tell.
They're out of business. They're telecom out of business. They don't sell over 20 seats. Here's a list of the. You guys have this. Here's 8 pages of places where we installed these. Take a look.
Yes, I think.
Arcade, Lamb, so which schools, what which ones. And yeah, the prices are comparable. I mean, we're in the market with everybody else. And, you know, they can be purchased as a package off a BOE contract. They can be purchased off of a national contract on there.
And of these, already on contract and everything. As opposed to a fall contract, in process. And again, depending on what you select, what you want, right, it's not exact amount. Based on what interest is. Okay, that seat exactly the way it is. What kind of money are we talking?
Half of what you said,
What?
half of what you said.
Oh, okay.
That's including everything.
Okay.
That's including manufacturing. That's including shipping. That's including installation. That's yeah. Yeah. That's yeah. Irwin wouldn't sell them to us. They're not gonna warranty it. They're not gonna warranty it. Yeah, yeah. No. And did you hear of the Capitol? Kennedy Center? The name of the company is well. I thought they had a they do all of those places I mentioned. And they're artists, they're craftsmen. What they do. Ready? Well, you certainly don't have to pick any of these things tonight. Did you all sit in them? See the difference? Did you sit in them? You want to know?
He said that one, half of what I said. I said 500. I said that's half. And that's it. So are like those transfer, like those, cheaper than
Well, let me give you an example. I mean, I have. Let's see. And if you don't like it, we'll make another.
we're looking at that list. Sherpa Minna. Sherpa. If I can just interject, maybe it would be a good decision. to Look at the auditorium, help you guys with the process of designing the auditorium, all the color ranges and schemes. Before you make a decision tonight, read, this is what we do for you guys. Helping my interior people, we can help you with the color ranges, the style of fabric, color of the arm, figure out the style of the arm, the side panel, what we're here for you guys.
So
You
what
don't
if-
have to make that decision? We'll get you larger samples of that, because those little samples on the boards are so difficult to see. We range ourselves into, well, we know we don't want purple, but we want.
Right,
blue
kind of a range
range.
of 2 or 3 blues from there.
We'll get larger
Larger
samples so you can physically see them better before we can look at it. We'll go into the space, we'll look at it together, we'll see how that frame dresses before.
So what if
Right,
we do that, right? The
Because we
3,
also have to help you decide on the flooring, we're gonna be replacing the flooring, so that we wanna create a whole, cohesive package. Right? So, no one needs to decide.
so what if
color
we can
today.
also take the next meeting, we can end up maybe meeting earlier and meeting at the pack, right? And then kind of, then we're looking at the pack, right? And then we'll select a few of those blue, maybe we take a look at and circle a couple of those blue to get a bigger swatch of those.
We can also, for you, as your architect, can also, for you, do some thoughts about type of flooring, right? We're gonna get back to flooring. You want it to pull all together, right? The flooring to display, the armchair, the coloration of the arm, the colors on the walls now. So that's what we're doing. To help you through that process. We
So
all
maybe
put together.
pick the date and then we could bring some floor samples too, right? And then we'll kind of highlight a couple of those blues, get bigger.
Because I don't think Sam and I keep that saying it's wrong. But the type of fabric is not going to change the cost of the chair. Right? I think the big issues are the type of chair, right? Tall or short, and then I don't even think that the arms so much. Right? So we can come together and say, I like this type of arm, right? And we're gonna price it for you, right? And say this chair with this package is going to be X.
Right. So
don't
this
want-
chair with those arms, as we said beforehand, right? Universally likes these arms, right? Then we can base it off of that and add specifics, and we can do that at the pack. We'll take a look at the calendar and we'll meet them. The end. Mhm. For pricing piece, I want to turn, I guess, in terms of all the questions answered. So we're going to price it with the larger bath. We're going to price it with the handles. Again, the color doesn't matter. We're going to price it with that. The scope of it was based on the higher amount so that we could compare it. Stop it. Now.
Right, so everybody remembers that.
She was joking.
That's what you want. If everybody remembers his smile, which is kind of unusual for some folks. We have the opportunity to carpet aisle on the house, and tile
will come with some thoughts, and you'll tell me, no, I hate it, or I love it, or let's make this color change, you know, like we would always do that whole process. Same way we did with the auditorium stuff. So we need to revisit it, and we can see what we did in the auditorium, and let's see if we can bring it back a whole couple of different schemes. I believe it's 700, 700, and that's inclusive of all the entertainment taxes. You know, we have to relay that out. You probably lose a few percentage of the seats. Going to be around that 700 seats, I believe. But you actually did have a few spots that were already open spots for you. I don't imagine too many more will be lost, but we'll work all that out.
All right. So Carolisa, don't go too far. During our last meeting, we talked about South Bay, right? We talked about to see the water, right? The parking lot area in the front, and also look at the asphalt, the playground area in the back, right? And the condition, right, of the asphalt back there that it is absolutely has to be addressed. So at that point, the board gave me direction and Carolisa direction, right, for us to go back, right, and take a look at that area. We know that we need to do the water. We have to address the water situation, right? And we know that we also then need to rip up, right, that whole area in order to address the water. So considering that we are doing that, right, it just makes sense, right, to take a look at the rest of the area there. So again, just kind of a little recap, right, this meeting. So Carolisa is back here today with some drawings and ideas. This would allow us the ability to add parking spots. We talked about that as being a concern. And it would be in the front as opposed to the back, so that it keeps the space there for kids, right, at the back of the playground area there. So Carolisa, when you kind of take it away and share with the board.
Sure. So, thank you. So after our meeting, myself, Denise Gillis, and last Thursday met at the school on right after Labor Tuesday, pouring rain.
Yes.
Lovely day. To take a look at how the school was functioning in action, and it was actually a good time to do it because getting close to the dismissal was happening, and we had the opportunity to talk to the building principal as well, and her thoughts on what were the problems, issues with parking, parent drop off, the lack of parking, the need for additional even visitor parking. They're completely maxed out. That staff are double booked in parking spots right now. There's actually a chart that principal shared with me in terms of who needed to go in what spot, because that spot needed to be assigned to a person, and somebody else better not take that spot. You know, if somebody leaves a half a day person, so they're completely maxed out, as you know. And also we realized that we did put parking in the back of the gymnasium, which seems to be full also, as well as the front. 20, 21 schools in the back. And between the back and the existing front, you're maxed out.
And that doesn't even account for, having events and having parents at the building, like all those special types of.
So when I showed up to park just to me, I took somebody's spot because I didn't know the numbered spot, because there are no visitor spots. So So it seemed like the biggest issue was, at dismissal and mostly dismissal, but I think it also was an issue during, drop off in the morning. And I witnessed it and I took some pictures and I brought them tonight if you want to see. But basically what happens is that parents come and pick up the students and they stack along the north side of that driveway. And it becomes an issue because the buses need to try to pass parents that have parked there because there's no place for a parent to park to pick up their child. And more often than not, as we all know, in the elementary level, parents want to be able to get out of the car and go meet their child and not just wait in the car. They want to get out, they want to have a place to park, in order to go and walk over. And actually, I witnessed the parents picking up the students from the side of the cafeteria on the westernmost door of the cafeteria, right at back in the car. So the bottom line is, it sounded like to me, and after talking with the government, really what the need was that we needed and a way to get the drop-off traffic out of the drop loop as efficiently as possible. So, and to leave whatever parking that you do have in the back and not take it away. The last thing we want to do is take away from the shop. So we visited whether or not we could also do maybe a separate parent drop-off. So we took some time to look at your site, figure out what we had, what we didn't have. And as we looked at your the tax map, which is the parcel, which is your property line. For most people that stand out and look out at Great Neck Road, they say, I got this great big grass lawn. I can do all the parking I want to out there. Not the case. So your property line is deceiving at best. It's like midway in the middle of the grass area. I'm going to point to it.
That blue line on your.
I think it might go through the flagpole. So you can't build on somebody else's property. You can only put parking on your property. So we want to adhere to your setbacks, obviously. So that kind of left us with a weird pie shape to contend with. So we looked at a couple of different options, and whether you put them parallel to the property line, whether we weren't coming up with much more than 25 feet. So in this version, we thought that to solve a few issues, number one, to get the parent traffic immediately as fast as we can off the drop-off route, we made an entrance right off the driveway. It is a two-way right now. Parents and visitors, etc., can pull into the parking lot, and then a one-way out, so that we don't have people double backing and going back to the driveway entrance again, come back to the parking. So right now in the front of the building, you have 48 stalls. We lost a stall because we had to bring the traffic out. And we were able to add 24. So, but we reconfigured the stalls a little bit. We are shifting stalls because right now they're a little bit not as deep as what we normally do them now, and the backup is a little tighter. So if we're going to touch the parking lot, we want to make it better. So in effect, we lost one stall in the existing parking lot. So you're going to get about 71 stalls between existing and new. I have personally driven two ways, and I've seen people come out. Now, here, this driveway. So the parking stalls that are like on the north side where it says South Bay, they're where the custodial staff, et cetera, they come back out and they go back through the parking lot. Because I don't think I've never seen anybody go through you would have to go out through your bus door. and your driver's fault. That's not reality. That's one way. Yeah. Yes, only coming in this way. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't think there was ever an intent to let people go out that northern. Always in the northern entrance, out the southern. Entrance. We could do that. It was just to give some relief, but you could only, if you want it to, we could only make it 11.
I'd still come out, but, it's a little.
Yeah, I mean, I think the intent was that you could get out there and make a left and come around the park, but not to go east. Right. So as visitors and parents come pulling in on the northern entrance, they would have the opportunity to turn into the new lot or continue their way in the existing parking lot, which is still a one-way. And so all the traffic goes from north to south, which is exactly right. North, south, east, west. And we, obviously we can accomplish a lot with the signage, one way only.
And this does mean just, for that, obviously that parking area is conceivable there, right? So those two. Well, you'd have to take a look at spacing in here, right? So we'd have to then evaluate it. Again, we don't have to decide now, but I just wanted to point out that the layer is, that does layer.
That was the plan. The parking lot is. Just outside of the fence line. Yeah, the black, it's kind of a very faint black line. So we would repave that lot. It's in really not great condition, and that's the lot that has the drainage issue in the corner. No, so what happened was when we started to explore trying to make like a separate bus drop lane and parent drop lane, it took away, you lost way too many spots, and it wasn't, the priority was then, we didn't want to lose spots. We attempted to do that. We laid out a scheme that didn't work, so I didn't shut it. So to get that in, you kind of have to incrementally push. So property. 21. Yeah, I didn't even add the numbers, right? I believe there's 6. As I understand, that's the plan.
Yeah, so the plan, if you look at the other document that I previously shared, that's what we're attempting to do if we continue with this stay on track with timeline, right? The plan would be, again, obviously we have to talk about in terms of the bond, right, in terms of formal board approval to add that. So the plan would be, then authorize Carolisa, right, to proceed with regards to the design, right, so that we would need to do that now, right? So that we can submit it to the state education department immediately, right? To be prepared to submit it to the state right after the bond is sold, right? So that would be the plan, so that, again, looking to do construction summer of 2023 for the South Bay, the new water service, right, the RPZ, the driveway reconstruction, the condensate tank replacement, parking lot reconstruction area that we just discussed here, and then back area. So the plan would be for all that to be next summer of 2023, and the senior high school roof will be summer of 2024. And remember, all the other energy performance contracts stuff. Right, in terms of aid, yes. Yeah, this is total full amount, right, and then ultimately we're getting aid on the South Bay pieces, and remember, we're tying that to the condensate tank because we need the inside work to be able to get aid on the full package, so it goes together as a package, right, Carolisa?
Yes, exactly.
With the outside. Yes, that's correct. Yep, it's the building.
Generally how it operates is anything that's site related, so parking lot, playground, anything like that, needs to have something inside of the building. It's not to say a roof, right? Because we were contemplating doing a roof is completely different, right? It's part of the envelope of the building that houses students. That a boiler, is inside the building, and that's what it is.
So that's why when we've been talking about also the driver's building, right, that we're looking at once we get responses, right, once we figure out exactly what's going on, right, so doing the repairs of the driver's building floor, right, that won't be aidable because it's not a student,
Non-student occupied space.
non-student occupied space, right? So, well, twofold, that won't have aid, right, because, in terms of unless. That would definitely be up to the board, right? That would definitely change the timeline. That would also that on if you go to the final scope of the work, right? Part of this, in terms of with us for the bond, we must do that during the next. In order to stay within the same timeline of the December vote and all the other. If you don't do that, then definitely they're not going to that date, kind of everything that kind of like moves out, right? And even here, right, we're talking about us authorizing Carolisa to begin all of the necessary work so that right after the vote, right, that goes out. But regardless, again, this is necessary work, right? The water service, right? We talked about it. So that will just change that, right? And we have to just understand. So, two things we had ended, right, in terms of with the playground, the two buildings, that we did not. So South Bay had one playground that was done right after the fire. So if we wanted to address that other playground and if we wanted to address the okay, right? The other playgrounds that we saw that weren't part of the care. So that wouldn't be part of this project, that would be part of our equipment planning for the school year, right? So if we wanted to take a look at the playgrounds that we haven't done, I think definitely have that. And do something soon, right? Next year, right, exactly, right? So I would say actually we could complete that cycle with pretty good plan, right? You know, for those- Correct, and then one the previous year.
No. No, I do not.
Lisa, this was obviously priority in terms of timeline. Again, if we're gonna be able um, Energia, or what are we, what's the question? Yeah, yes, mhm. Which, so this bond, this is separate from the energy performance, right? Completely separate from the energy performance. So this, our plan there was to place this on a vote for December. Because ultimately, the high school roof, now it's time to get the high school roof done before we do the solar. And on that time frame, we had talked about the solar for the high school, roof, the last thing done because we need to get it, right? So that was already given back. So no, but it's different. I just need to emphasize, right? So there's a December vote, and then there's all the other requirements. This is not work that can happen any other time other than summer, right? So the moment we that summer, we're talking a year, right? Because then we're talking and then we're talking changes, right? And so that's the clincher, right? Because this is a shutdown in South Bay, right? You know, that's the tricky part. The water service RPZ, yes. The driver reconstruction, absolutely. That's what it absolutely is.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes, we were linking that.
So that's the tricky part, right? That this type of work is coming.
So, yeah, and so there's upfront stuff that needs to happen, right? We started that process for the driveway, right? By getting surveys, right? Soil borings, obviously, we know we have that in order for us to start designing, we're doing. But the point was that if you did a vote in December, and then you said, okay, start design, you'd miss the summer. Right? So we know I understand it that we have to do the work. So that's the priority. Stay focused on it. And then you always have that economy of means. We always talked about that, but when I'm touching something in the driveway, then if I have to come back a year later and do the parking lot, where's that in and out, that awkward spot? And so I have a contract mobilized, right? So we would hope that we would see. Not to say that you will get it, but you know, it just made sense that if you're going to be doing something in the driveway, maybe you want it to. So we would just design it all together at once, and then you have the process of permits. We went through the permit processes, not just S&D for that, other permits that have to be taken care of for the water service app, all those, so all that upfront stuff that is happening. If you do one or the other, but if you told me to pull the trigger December 15th, then we're back and look at the policy, and then we have time to be right now to 8. So.
question. Fine. Is this our bond project? Right, so the bond proposal, right, which, you know, so all the specific costs will be, right? So that's why I actually pulled it off here because I just wanted to write it there. Very contracted, translate by keeping the motion kind of a whole, right? This bill, the other bill, so the whole scope of work. Scope of work. Generally, the way it works is the B list and I think not. And generally speaking, I don't want the attorney, but, that would be, it has to be written into your bond resolution language, right? Like what projects you would look to try to do. with them. Well, right, that's why districts, we work with a number of districts, and that's why there's always a B list, because the hope would be, like in today's economy, I don't wanna say it, but the hope would be, like what we're exploring with you now, that we have B list work that we're able to do, you know, 2015, right? So it's great, right? So that's why you always put together a B list, because you hope that things will come in less expensive and that you have some money for other necessary work. No, this isn't B list. This is. Oh, right. The fair. Yes. So, for example, I don't have a drawing for the roof for the high school, but if you can tell people this, you want to come up with something else, and we will assist you with that process of coming up with another figure.
You were lucky, possibly 10 legs, so you had those two. But that wasn't great. That's because the speech was where the project was forward.
So, you know, we did a whole building condition survey. Which you have a whole list. Done every 5 years, and there's a list of items prioritized priority 1 through 5. And that would be safety issues related. So you could easily go look at that. We can help you through that process, and perhaps there's something on that list that you'd like to address, and that could become a deal.
So that, if that's not adjusting or not, that's leaving, this is the project. And I think, however, if you're, money left over out of the 9.7, but someone's gonna have a application. Indicated, if you have funding left over, you're gonna, Eagle, I think, cafeteria, high school. That's the thing, though. It's different, but the scope of this.
Perhaps I should look at a project that might be about $100,000, and then that would make it 10 million, and then we'll talk about a B list, and then.
So let me.
And it doesn't have to be at some. It can be at any one of these. So long as it's not site related, right? So, the first thing that pops into my mind that
So are we
You know,
thinking
there are
the
other
press
things.
box? Are we thinking concessions? Like, are we thinking those, any of those, because then it kind of goes.
do we want to maybe regroup with the list? I'd be more than happy to make an appointment, to sit, and we can look at the list.
Anything can fit, right? Like, it's not the time for JFK. So there are many different issues that when you think about it, capital was 60 million bucks, right? And we literally made it. Correct, right, so no, definitely.
I honestly think
Well, if you want to bring up a particular topic, maybe you bring it up and general public. So now it's like
Then you need to find
Inside
something
work.
inside there.
Absolutely. Well, that back area, I think we all agree, right, that back. Right, so the question, rip up asphalt, and leave asphalt as is, or redesign. So, no, yeah, definitely, yeah, yeah. Right, and we certainly will identify multiple.
I believe it has to come up with some, kind of justifies what the A list is. Only way to go over that is if
the lucky again, the lucky share, expansion that now even very high inflation rate. And maybe if we're lucky, the inflation rates are gonna come down sometime through this budget process. And that could be this, in that inflation rate. So that's how those things to identify it. You did not identify it in your own system. It was weakest and it was perfectly confused what was that for the did that. It's just an imaginary is. No, you can't have it. You can have it. They can have an imaginary is. And that's one of the A-lists to make this. That's correct. If that has to be educated by having flights that go up. Will you walk in? Yeah.
Actually, it was just done this past year, so. So every 5 years you have.
So here's, I mean, listen, we can call another meeting if we still want the same time, right? Call the meeting, but we have to be realistic. Ultimately, we're asking the architect, yes. So definitely the next meeting on the project. That's it. So whatever variations we're talking about having our architect plan, you know, all those specifics in the next couple of days, right? And us having a meeting, see what we can do, right? So, you know, are we talking 300? You know, like, or are we talking, forget what the number ends up being, let's address, because that's a different thought, right? So I think that's a better plan if we want to address it, what it could be design. I wouldn't give it, it's not gonna be, you know, right? So let's take the opportunity and do the redesign, take a look at it, again, I really don't have any, have no idea.
Lucy
You know,
would say you could get it.
I understand kind of the pieces that we're talking about, right? That don't normally happen, right? But and we have many, you definitely. Okay. In that document, we identify and do it. In the original resolution, no, because that's the main bond, right? we identified those with.
I recall, with you guys, we created the B list, and there was a dollar amount associated with each B list item. Listed out. Total of your, I think, the bond was 29, how about, B list.
I mean, senior high school cafeteria, what do you know?
You have to have, you want to do this, have to identify that.
Oh, that makes sense. I'm sorry, Denise, again?
Yeah, I mean, that's right, you have to have a number. Carpet, carpet for, X amount of dollars, B list, whatever the school. And that, I would recommend that you take a look at your ACS and use that as your B list. And also, some things out of that. We have, the BCS is created, we have that list, we've already done it, so you can read and have every school, and you can say, okay, and if it's something that isn't on that list that you want.
Right, but the pricing for those are not, right, that, like, we haven't asked for, let's say, like, whatever, or, you know, like,
I might
those were
have it.
identified by category.
I have it. You know, when I do a BCS, it's myself. So we may have captured it already. I have to look back to this and see if we captured it. I might have it. I might already picked up carpet.
Well, yes. Yes, no, it is a solid yes, right? It's just, you know, again, it's, you know, we'll just, you know, go and meet your assistance in drafting and adding that. I was trying to avoid the on the night kind of language, right? But no, this is stays solid. So I think it's much simpler because now it's just B list would be duplicate, right? Like I'm oversimplifying it, but I think it would. All right. So we would share the survey. Both of those. We would recommend. Because, right, we're talking, right, exactly. Yeah, and it's also not as simple as JFK parking in that area, right? Like, again, there's visits that have to happen by the engineers, there's measurements, there's surveys, right? Like there's a process for each one of those thoughts of, you know, what is this for? You know, right, what about this? Yeah. All right, so this is the scope of the work for the bonds. The resolution will, it's a long extended, resolution for the bond. That will be on the next meeting, continue the timeline for December bond votes. And then during the next meeting, we will talk about what key list items to identify as part of it. Did I do that a good summary? Okay. All right. Thank you, Carolisa. And thank you, Mr. Van Waters, also for being here as well and doing the presentation. Okay, so Mr. Payne, Carolisa will be calling you tomorrow. We'll be doing a quick overview of just an update really of our DSIP plan. We've had this beforehand, right, on prior board meetings. This is obviously required by New York State, right, for us to continuously update and revise, right, as our plan continues. As you know, we have a school that has been identified now for a number of years, right? We talked about this beforehand, Sanapog, right? Right, the title for that has changed, right, throughout the process. So Mr. Payne will provide us with an update of where we are at. Again, the board received this up.
So everyone has a copy of the DSIP, which is the District Comprehensive Improvement Plan. Before I start, I want to thank Ms. Kaplan, who's our K-12 Director of STEAM, and Ms. Hoffman, who's at back to school night with her son, Director of K-12 Director of Humanities, because they put a lot of time and effort into this with the teachers and the administrators. But as Dr. Farley had mentioned, our DSIP is required by the state of New York because Sanapog is a TSI school, which is a Targeted Support and Improvement School. And basically what that means is it's been identified, the school has been identified based on particular New York State subgroups of students that did not perform as well on the New York State assessments compared to other schools. It's a strict comparison to other schools. There's no way to determine year to year whether we're going to be on that list based on just our performance. But in general, what happens is the better your performance, the better you do, and the more students that take it. We've been through this, and I can answer questions. The more students that take the test, the better you do, because the state counts any student that doesn't take it as essentially a zero. It doesn't work out mathematically. They say essentially we're counting the denominator as all the students, but the numerator is just the ones who took it. But essentially what winds up happening is those students that don't take the test don't count. So schools that don't have as greater number of students participating in particular subgroups definitely wind up on this list as opposed to schools where 100% of the kids are taking. So and I think in our next meeting, Dr. Farrelly, the meeting after, we'll go over the New York State assessment results, but we are having more and more kids, for better or for worse, right, take the New York State assessments, which as far as this plan is concerned, is relative. It's relative to what I'm going to talk about tonight. The District Comprehensive Improvement Plan does not have an A nor a B list, so that's going to be easy, right? We're going to go over just 3 priorities, and the priorities are the same as last year. I didn't. No. Well, we can kind of push some money around. We'll make the priorities work. But the priorities are the same, but the details in the priorities are different. That's what I'm really going to talk about tonight, are the details in each of the priorities. The first one is we prioritize customized learning. And really what this is about is furthering our work with teachers using what we're calling learning targets, which are I can statements for students when they come in the classroom. Focusing on student small group work in the individual classrooms, but then teachers setting specific I can statements and making sure this year that they're rigorous learning target statements, as opposed to I can do addition, which is good, but it's very general. There's no way to really pinpoint that, to I can do multi-digit addition with 4 or more numbers. And students getting used to that concept of being very specific of what's happening in the classroom is pretty much all of priority number 1. Priority 2 now starts to look at student goals. So the students last year, we talked about having in priority 2 settings, having data chats with the teacher about how they're performing on different classroom assessments or even our iReady exams. Now students are setting goals for their achievement this year as part of our DSIP plan. Teachers are also now assessing their learning targets as well as unpacking them with students. So this year we're going to look at teachers at the end of the lesson saying, okay, I set this learning target as, you know, this I can, students will be able to add multi-digit numbers of 4 more numbers at a time. How well did I do with that? How well did the lesson work out? And did I unpack it so the students understood each step of that lesson? And that's what we'll be looking at for priority 2. And priority 3 talks about, and this is a New York State added piece, providing inclusive and equitable learning environments for all students. Really what it talks about, we're centering on a lot of the work Dr. Farrelly has guided us with parent communication this year, parent involvement, and culturally responsive materials in the classroom. We've been working on reading books on K-12, on including reading books that are culturally responsive. And then this year's plan also involves the PTA. For those of you that are members of the PTA, you know we have our arts and education program with BOCES, where you can bring in different presentations. That I'm happy to say we're getting, not only more field trips involved, but more groups and presentations coming back in the building. So the idea is to work with BOCES, with the approved BOCES presentations, with the PTA and school cultural arts and education funds to bring more culturally relevant performances into the school. That's the short version of the 3 priorities. With the board's approval of the plan tonight, we would then post that to the website and then send it to the state. We do use PLC. It's an outside company, which the state, for parts of our DSIP, require, particularly things like surveys. We survey parents, students, and teachers. We have to contract outside with the service so that we're not surveying ourselves, or at least we have someone else independently evaluating those surveys. But PLC does a lot of other work with us, which we can talk about at any point, or just you can see it, it's embedded into the plan. That's the short version.
One piece that I know we talked about this beforehand, maybe you can share, because of COVID and everything else, right? There have been changes obviously from the state level, right? In terms of designations, right? So we've moved on, right? There is something, again, I don't know how this is evolved.
Yep.
There is language, right, that is in place. It talks about, right, the school, right, if you continue to be a CSI school, right, you don't want to become a woman, right, district, right, let's say that Santa Pod areas, one improves, right, or something along the lines, but one of our other schools, right, let's say that the students, say special needs students, right, there are no students that take the test, right, the performance there, right, designates like CSI, even though Santa Pod was not one subgroup, we continue to do, right, and then that can progress to, again, not that, right, district, right, as a district for us to go to the next designation, which then does involve, it is a big deal, right? That does involve people from the state directly coming in with us.
Yes, you're talking, so right now we're a TSI school in Sanapog and district because of that.
Because of that, right?
What Dr. Farrelly is talking about is a CSI, which is Comprehensive Support Improvement, which does involve state. They're not going to come in and run the district, but they're going to come in, and we're right now setting our own plan and we're setting what we want to do. The state would then come in and tell us what to do. So rather than come to the board and present to you, we would present to the state and they would say, yes, you can do that. Right. So we're not compared to how we did last year. That's the tricky part. So the best way I can, in this analogy I can give you is a race, right? So if everyone's running the race faster and we ran much faster than we did last year, it doesn't matter, depending upon what place we fell in, but it's even tougher because they do factor in then the number of kids that took it. So imagine the school districts that are running the race with less kids that take the test, they're going to be starting later than everyone else. And that's a silly analogy. That's the best I can tell you. So even if we do double and twice as good as we did last year, it's irrelevant compared to where we stack up with that number, as well as then where we stack up with the other cities, which you don't know, right? Correct. Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, and Mr. Moore, the interesting piece is during COVID, remember the state of New York themselves were saying, we don't want you to take it, but the feds are making it.
So we never sent something out to opt in. Yeah, I think that was a request. We definitely did have to put something out to opt in. We don't have now. Yes. Right, like share with us like if you're not going to share with us, share with us.
And earlier, I think. Yeah, and I think we sent it out a little earlier too, and yeah, and that was because of the state push as well. And that year, when we go over the test results, you're gonna see it's a completely different test. And that's why, like Dr. Farrelly was saying, ordinarily you have 2 years to get off this list, but the last time we took a test that counted was 18-19. And now Sanapog is automatically still on the list because the years following, as well as that year, they can't factor in. They won't, yeah, so they hit us separately with participation rates. Right, so they won't say to you, not enough kids are taking it, because they won't know how those kids perform. But they'll hit us up separately and say, they want 95% of the kids to take it. But once you don't hit 95, that's a separate issue that we have to fill out forms on. It's a whole different thing.
We have to spend money specifically to spend money specifically to try and get participation to increase, right? Like we have to designate specific funding for those.
Yes, yep, yes.
So we are going to this upcoming presentation, right, on student assessments, yep, the results, and also the you'll see specific. Question?
Okay. Oh, good. That'll make it easy. I'd have to see what when they're saying reading, like there's a whole bunch of different factors, like, there's a big piece with phonetics right now, and then in relation to early reading and how students use sight words versus comprehension. I haven't read, and I don't doubt what you've seen. I just don't know what they're comparing it to. Really, when you're looking at reading, you're looking at fluency, right? It's not just reading, but it's reading on grade level. And then how well are they identifying factors? How well are they comprehending? How well are they identifying or reasoning out certain words? And that's the level of reading. So I'm going to tell you more than 45% of all of our kids are reading. It's to the degree at which they're reading, and are they excelling? Really, our goal is pass through.
So in last week's news and notes, we had included information in there that we're going to look at our programs at the elementary level, right? Specifically, so that's part of it, right? For the actual decoding, right? And so we're going to go through that process with committees and take a look at it, obviously goals, but really branching out again, it's going to be quite a process. It's the same process that we have in the math program, if you recall, right? So a very similar process that and the phonics and the coding is one.
Well, the ELA is just in English, and then the math is in multiple languages. I'll give it. Okay. Thank you.
I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Kathy and Matt, all those in favor? Okay. Statements of residence. come to the podium, identify yourself, name and address. 3 minutes. Name and address. April Amorisco, 3 minutes. I will do my best, 'cause I forgot my glasses tonight, so my best. My daughter did come home with wanting me to sign something from her art teacher. The art teacher clearly states in that ditto, expressive arts processes have been used successfully in almost every psychotherapeutic context. The teacher further states, stream off consciousness and further expose students to different therapeutic arts as well as promoting mental health. Please be advised that this teacher is in violation of New York State Education Law 6522, practice of medicine without a license. A lawsuit can be filed with the district office if he does not cease. We will be seeking a reprimand letter to the teacher's file. Indifference by the West Babylon BOE is against the law. Using mental health at any level, in any class, for any purpose, further violates this law and creates legal situation known as hostile environment. In addition, superintendents who continue to mislead BOE members on the state initiatives will also be subject to civil law violation. Thank you.
I'm Heather Sariano. I'm here to talk about a notice that was sent home in the packet that we received before we started. There was a letter in there that we as parents needed to give our consent to allow our children to receive info. For those who are unaware of what I'm talking about, the letter was about AIDS being brought to not only my third grader, but the whole elementary school. I appreciate given the opportunity, the option to allow or not allow a child to participate, but what I don't appreciate is how I received the letter. I know that as a mother of two older children who went to JFK, that I have not needed to fully read through the packet because I was pretty much aware of what was fully in it. I never would have expected something like that to be in it. I don't think it's fair that not everyone may have seen that notice, and if I didn't come here to speak about it, not everyone would know that the letter was submitted in by the 21st, or else it's submitted that they would report about it. I feel like it was sneakily done to prevent parents from signing off on it, and I feel as though if they really wanted to bring the parents' attention, they would have done it in a completely different way. Like, for example, sending the letter home with the child, or since we now have the whole parent square posted on there, or sending email. I personally don't feel as though this is appropriate to be taught in elementary school, seeing that my children who went to JFK didn't learn it until they were in 7th grade. And like I mentioned before, I do appreciate it being given the option because not everyone does talk to their child about things, but I feel as though instead of it automatically being a set way of like if consent is not given, they learn it anyway. It should be the other way around where consent should be given if they want their child to learn about it. So in closing, I hope this brings some sort of attention for how everyone wants to get out of Marta, 849 Brook Street. In regards to the South parking lot expansion of the taxi bond, I just wanted to support what Mr. Taylor was expressing regarding the trees coming down. When PTA was setting up for our welcome back for the students, I was discussing that it was going to be brought up at the next board ed meeting, trying to add it on to the bond. And one thing that we all did express was that we were concerned about taking down the trees in front, that it's already a very hard to see area. So if there is some way that when moving forward, we could just, look at the exterior of our building and possibly, reinstalling the trees or adding some landscaping around to kind of soften the area, that we don't want it to look actual concrete jungle, but it is very much needed parking to help with the traffic flow.